So now we're going to move on to the ocean. We're just going to mix up two colors for right now. This kind of orangey peach color in the middle, and then a really similar color off to the side. You kind of see the one in the middle is more rosy. The one on the side is more of kind of a grayish orange. I'm trying to ignore the blue in the water, the little waves, and just look at the color beneath it, the base. So we're going to go for a redder and an orangey or grayer version of the same color. And we can use these same colors these two that we have, the peachy color we used in the sky, to make this one. It's just a more intense version of that, a more deeper value, more saturated and deeper value color. And then this one we can use the mustardy orange, which is similar but a little bit grayer and lighter. So because it's grayer, I'm going to start by adding a little blue. Don't need much. If you remember, blue is really, really strong. So I just kind of wiped off the remnants of what was there, dried on the pan. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, you can't see the photo. So still a little bit too orange, so I'm going to add some red. There's some dried up red right here. And it becomes reinvigorated pretty quickly with a little water. Nope, more red. You can also just pour out more if you don't want to mess with this action. But I'm very frugal. I like to try to use up what I can. And actually that seems like it might have been enough. It did make a big difference. Touch the drip. So that looks pretty good, except it's too dark, so I'm going to add some water. Just one brushful to start, and this test strip is used up. Oh good, there's room on the other side. Oops, I don't know if that was accurate. That's a big drip. I'm going to soak that up. Almost. It still needs a little bit more red, it looks like, but I think I've got the right value. It looks light enough. I think I got it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to this one. You can see I don't have a lot of color left, so I'm going to add water. If you ever run out of color or are running out of color, I know it may be a little heartbreaking to add water to it because you worked so hard to mix that perfect color, but don't worry, you can bring it back to whatever you want. And besides, we are mixing a slightly different color, so it's not like I have to remix the exact same thing again. So I'm going to start with, I'm now reasonably out of red, so I'm going to pour out a little bit more. I'm using the brilliant red instead of the crimson because the brilliant one is more of an orangey red, and we're going for more of an orangey red. So I'll just mix that in really good and see what we're starting with, and then I'll know what I need to add. So it definitely needs some orange. And I'm just going to add some yellow because yellow and red make orange. Okay, now I feel like I've pretty much matched the right color, but it seems too light in value. That's the harder thing to correct. If it's too dark, you just add water. If it's too light, that means you have to add more color. So I'm going to start by adding more yellow. Just get the rest of this yellow in there. Scrape, rinse, touch my towel, then grab the rest of the red and add that. I don't know if that made a big difference. Let's find out. I don't think so. Let's get rid of the drip. Nope, looks pretty much exactly the same. So I'm going to pour out, oh wait, you know what? I have some yellow already mixed over here, and it's got water in it, so I got a pretty big brush full because the water just dilutes the strength, of course. I'm going to do the same thing again. And now we'll add some more red from the tube. going to add the whole thing. I'm kind of accumulating a lot of paint here, so that means I'm going to need more pigment from the tube in order to really change it. Still not looking much different. More red. Might have been because I added that yellow that already had water mixed into it, so I was adding water, which means I was not making it darker in value. Oops, I had some red clumped on my brush with that test from the tube, so let me make sure it's really off of there. Oh, it's still pretty nice and dark. Okay, now I just need some more yellow. And actually now I've made it too dark, so I'm going to add the yellow with the water in it purposely this time because my color is a little bit too dark. Yeah, still too dark. And still too red, so more yellow. Just finish that off. I'm going to take a brushful out of here and just rinse it into the water and add a brushful of water because I can see that it's getting a little too full. In fact, it just leaked into my other color that I had perfected, but hopefully it didn't affect it that much. I'm just going to wipe that back and mix this in. There's nothing I can do about it now except to roll with it and hope it didn't change too much. Nah, that looks like it's still fine. Yeah, that's fine. And this one is still too dark in value, so I'm going to get rid of some more of it. To soak up a big brush full, rinse it off, and come back with some water. Okay, now I've gotten it. So now we're going to paint, and what we're going to do is start with the red color and paint across underneath the sun, and then kind of just keep going so it ends up being a full area like this, sort of a smile shape. And then we're going to fill in the sides with this orange, and the whole time we're doing it, it's going to be pretty drippy so that the colors can really bleed together, because you definitely don't want to see any lines between the colors. You just want them to blend together. On this one, we're not going to do the water first. By the way, that technique was called wet into wet, where you put water first and then a color. We're going to do, this is more of a graduated wash, where you paint a wash of color and then keep going with a different color, although we're sort of doing it horizontally. Usually a graduated wash is top down. And the reason we're doing it horizontally is because we want the same color on both sides and one in the middle. If we were doing like 3 colors, we would probably turn the board like this and go from one side to the other, but I don't want this top color to blend into the middle one too much, so we're just going to do it this way. So we're going to start over here on the left a little further than we think we need to, and again, try to keep that horizon line super sharp if you can. I did not do a very good job of that, but that's alright, I can fix it. And so can you if that happened to you. So now we're going to start making that smile shape. Go all the way to the bottom, even below the frame edge. And over to the sides. Try to keep the drips big even on the sides. Then rinse, touch your sponge, get the orange, and as quickly as you can without stressing or going fast, fill in these other sides. So that top stroke has to be careful to keep the horizon line sharp, but the rest of this you can just brush in pretty quickly. Just make sure you fill in all the frame. And then I'm going to rinse, touch my towel, and soak up my drip. And I'm below the frame line, so I'm going to just wipe it off. By the way, some of you may have noticed that brush hair before. I forgot to tell you, when I was blow drying it, it actually blew away, so I didn't have the opportunity to show you how to brush it off, but that might happen to you. But if you still had a brush hair after it was dry, you just wipe it off. And that's pretty well blended, so I'm going to blow dry.